The What Works podcast is a production of Thinker Ventures. Learn more at thinkerventures.com.
Be able to hire Nicole.
That's great.
Oh, Pete, I think we may have a bad connection. It looks like you're frozen.
Monday. Have you talked to her about compensation? Jonathan! Speak up, Jonathan! Are you muted? It's really... Please tell me more.
Hello?
I love our chats, Jonathan.
You're listening to Thinkers What Works podcast. What you don't know is this is take number 3 on this intro as we're trying to test this new video recording. So today, I'm here with my co-host Alex Gary, and today also Julie Bosma and Amy Morris from RAMP, a center that provides services and advocacy for people with disabilities. Talk to us about services and advocacy. What is services and advocacy for the third time?
So services are, we serve individuals with disabilities, and the idea as a Center for Independent Living is that everyone has really the goal of living independently. We all do, right?
Yeah.
And so we try to wrap ourselves around individuals so that they can reach their goals of independence, whether it's in housing, in their educational opportunities, for parents of children with disabilities, whatever it is, without just kind of going through the litany of, oh, we have this service, that service, which the average person, is not aware of. That's kind of, if they can take that away. And so what we say too with people is that if you have a disability, or if you have any questions, or if you have any goals, just give us a call and we'll try and help you. And if we're not the right resource, then we'll refer you out. But I don't know if that helps to explain.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that RAMP serves people with physical disabilities, because of our name, RAMP. Okay,
The things that you see.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we serve any disability, any age. And so, we have a lot of services for students in the schools, helping them with their IEPs, or we have a curriculum program. We have different programs all the way up to, seniors. And so we provide services any age, any disability.
Right. And sometimes there's hidden disabilities, and people don't think of, Amy's absolutely right. You think of somebody who uses a wheelchair, but there are mental health disabilities, there are learning disabilities, sensory, vision, hearing. There's all kinds of things.
Anxiety is a big
absolutely.
Right?
In terms of mental health, there's all kinds of, absolutely.
And we do educational, lunch and learns, or at our all-staff meeting from individuals from our own staff that will teach us about their disability, the deaf culture. And, there's different cultures, there's different things that you learn, and you don't mean to be offensive, as we said, but then as you learn about it, you adapt to it so that you're not offending somebody. Things like somebody who is deaf, that you should tap them on the back of the shoulder to get their attention, or that you should, of course, look at them directly so that if they read your lips, that they can read your lips. You shouldn't, talk to them with your head turned and things like that. And it's just no different than some of our coworkers in the past. I've asked specifically, which is nice. You have like a whole room of people. You can say, "Hey, is this offensive?" And you can ask them straight up. Is it offensive if I say to somebody who's a wheelchair user, "Hey, you want to go for a walk?" Well, no. It's just, they'd be offended if you said, "Hey, you want to go for a wheel?" Well,
Right.
they don't want you to treat them differently. They want you to use the same language you would use for anybody else. It's as simple as saying to somebody that is blind, "Do you see what I'm saying?"
Right.
Well, they don't physically see what you're saying, but they get the slang.
My youngest daughter also has a thing called anosmia, which I'd never heard of, which is she can't smell.
Oh,
She has
really?
no
I
sense
have a
of smell.
coworker who has that.
And so every once in a while, somebody, like at the house will be like, "Oh, that smells really good." And in a joking way, she'll be like, "Thanks."
Yeah.
Things like that. It's just interesting.
Which changes all sorts of the human experience.
Absolutely.
Food and everything else. She can taste, though.
She can taste. That's the weird thing. And I told her, I said, in a lot of cases, that's kind of probably an advantage, right?
Yeah.
But another friend of mine, I never heard of this until my daughter, but then somebody posted on Facebook, this happened to her. Her dog got outside and got sprayed by a skunk. But she can't smell.
Oh, jeez.
So she let the dog in. And so the dog was there for 5 or 6 hours, and then the husband comes home, he's like, "Oh my god!"
It's been all over the house.
Well, and you can't get that out. They can't get that smell out of your furniture. They ended up spending $2,000 on new furniture.
Really?
He's like, "I'm not even going to mess with this." He just had it all carted out.
He didn't
Next
spray
day.
tomato juice all over it.
They tried it for like a half a day, and he's like, "No, I'm just going to buy
Their
new
carpet
stuff."
was stained red, the couch, everything.
The whole place was fake.
I think the key for us too is that accommodating people. So we try to make this the fabric of what we say. So if we're inviting somebody in for an interview, if someone's coming to our office for whatever reason, do you need any accommodations? Because you just never know what people are dealing with. And unfortunately, individuals with disabilities have really people just haven't taken their viewpoint into, they think steps to a building is beautiful. Well, it might be, but if you're using a wheelchair, or if you have difficulty walking, that all of a sudden that building becomes inaccessible to you, and that's not fair. And so just stopping and thinking about that, if you were in their shoes, how would you feel about that? And again, people don't mean to be ignorant, but a lot of times you miss it, because if you can smell and somebody else can't, you can't even comprehend what that's like for the most part, because your human experience is so different.
Well, I did your Wheelathon 10 or 15 years ago.
Oh, thank you.
Just and when it was over, just thinking about the city of Rockford and the issues with sidewalks, right? Because this Wheelathon, since I wasn't good at it, right, I pitched over 3 times because I didn't see the obstacle coming, or I didn't build up enough speed for it, or whatever. But the city of Rockford has to think about stuff like that.
And they have probably, you did it a long time ago. There's been actually quite a bit of advancements, with the curb cuts in that sense. Then we've advocated with them, and they've worked with us to make some improvements. I bet, because I think I recall you telling me it's probably been about 10 years ago that you did that.
Yeah, something like that.
I think they've
I remember
done
when I started
a lot
it, they
since
said, first of all, one guy goes, "You didn't bring gloves?"
Yeah.
No, he said, "Oh, you're in trouble."
Yeah.
I didn't realize the first time I did it that the wheels were independent of each other. That never occurred to me. I just thought they went together.
Right.
So when I first did it, I was on the board, and I just about went into the river. I did. Are you kind of doing a circle? And I'm not trying to be. I really was.
There was nobody behind you pushing?
No.
So what kind of pushback do you get from people or organizations when you start to talk to them about these issues?
I don't know that you get pushback necessarily. I mean, are you saying like if somebody has, because we do get people that call and say, "Hey, ABC company is not, accessible," and then we have to go talk to them. Is that what you're saying? Or just
I'm
in
wondering
general?
when you start, because when you bring up a topic such as, "Hey, we need to accommodate for a fraction of the population," right? Some people push back on that and say, "Well, yeah, but."
Yeah. I mean,
Especially if budgets are tight.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, I got to spend what I
Well, let me throw one out to you. I mean,
Yeah.
I just thought of this as we were
Yeah.
talking. Let's say you had a wheelchair user who
Yeah.
wanted to be part of this podcast. How
Yeah.
would they get in this room? So as a business owner, how are you going to feel about that? All of
Yeah.
a sudden, you
The
maybe
table's
have,
Right. Yeah.
so you've got somebody who maybe can't get in the room. So I guess I would put it on you. How does that feel to you?
Well, that's a great question. That's a really great question. So first of all, I would feel a little out of place, right?
Like you don't
But-
know what to do.
Yeah, but then practically, I would go, okay, well, it's no different than any other thing that occurs once in a great while, and therefore we would have taken our production equipment and moved it to a different room and would have been done, right? Without making a big deal about it. It's kind of I view it almost like you invite somebody over for dinner, and they you cooked a steak and they're like, "Well, I don't eat beef." You're like, "Oh shoot, but you know what? I got pork in the fridge, and I'll crank that out just as fast." But I'm not going to make them feel bad about it. Why would they feel bad about it? They don't eat it, or they don't like it, or whatever, And so you make an accommodation for them. And if you knew that in advance, you would have made an accommodation before they got there.
Yeah. And I think we have an education and advocacy coordinator, Eric Brown, from our office, and he's really good about working with, people. As we get phone calls, that consumers who will call and say, "Hey, I went to try to go to this restaurant and I couldn't get in," or "Once I got in, the tables were so close I couldn't even maneuver," or, "The tables were all high, there was no low tables," and things of that nature. And, he'll work with the restaurant, and certainly most of them are very willing to work back, because that's a part of their customer base too. And it's not like people with disabilities only travel alone. Typically they have other people with them, and so hopefully business owners will see that if we can make the community more accessible as a whole, it's going to impact the whole community, not just that small population.
And there are a lot of disabilities that people don't see as well. I mean,
Absolutely.
so for instance, we do some design work, and I can't remember what the population is, something like 30% or something like that of men or some are blue green colorblind.
Colorblind?
We weren't sure where you were going, but we were ready for that conversation.
Were you?
Well, men are. No.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Wait a minute. Men are inconsiderate.
Anyway, you were saying.
And they don't have feelings. No.
That's a whole different conversation.
We know where our feelings
Yeah.
are at. They're tucked carefully away on that shelf.
We just did a podcast on hidden.
We did a podcast
just this week.
Was it a quick one?
Wow. All right. Okay. Goodbye.
Men are waffles.
We're just gonna have Royce come in.
Yeah, our feelings are
compartmentalized.
compartmentalized. And that's okay. When they become uncompartmentalized, then the syrup just drains everywhere, and you don't know what to do with it. Then you just gotta smear it around. It's a problem.
The butter takes it. I don't know what metaphor that is.
No, this is good. I like this. I'm starting to get hungry now. It's still morning.
Now you have no idea what you're saying.
No, so there are people who with disabilities that you'd never even consider.
Yes.
And so from a design perspective, and I can't remember who I was talking with. It was 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago. I was talking with somebody, and they commented on a piece of design, and they thought that everything was just gray because they could not distinguish between the colors as they were sitting on each other. And I think it was the issue of blue-green. Yeah, it was actually a client whose colors are blue-green.
Or is it brown-green? Because my dad has that.
I think it's blue-green,
Blue-green.
but I maybe I could be wrong on that. I don't know the specifics. But basically they had juxtaposed these two colors on one another, and they could not distinguish. The whole thing just looked like flat stuff. There was no text on it, really. And you kind of had to look at it and go, this is just shades of gray.
Yeah.
And people don't consider those types of things as it's a disability, let's say. But it's not something that's visible, and therefore, how do you accommodate for it?
Absolutely. And I think, that's something that you see more and more. And I think is it more prevalent these days? No, it's just that we're becoming more aware. The schools are more aware of it, and, hidden disabilities and learning disorders and things of that nature that I think that we're just more willing to embrace now. I think years ago it was like, as a parent or as an educator, you just kind of try to tuck it away.
Yeah.
Now it's like, you know what, let's embrace it. Let's see what barriers we have. Let's overcome them. Let's, see what challenges we have. Everybody has challenges. It's just a matter of what they are and
And I
figuring
think
out
it's
how to
our
work around
approach to
it.
people too, because when a business is maybe inaccessible to some part of the population, the way we approach it makes all the difference. Because if we come in, guns blazing, and you guys, I can't believe it, what idiots, you've left out this part of the population. Well, now you've put them on the defensive, and they're not going to hear anything you say. But if you come in and explain the situation, and hey, you're right, you've got a part of the population that you're not able to serve, and that means customers for you, which means money, which means, can we help you accommodate? And the other thing we try to do is find the least expensive way. We had the best situation one time. We had a business that was just so freaked out because they had a conference room, and it had this huge heavy doors on it, and they were going to have to spend all this money and put power doors and all that kind of stuff. Like, you could prop the doors open, so we try to save people money. We also had a school district who had a classroom for a person who had a hard time going up the steps, and we said, move the classroom just that hour down to the first floor. Can you do that? Oh yeah. So we try, again, I think because people get so heated and worried and upset, and they think, I'm going to have to spend all this money. I mean, like you, we'll just move it somewhere else. Perfect. That doesn't cost you a penny probably. So I think, and that's what we try to do too, is approach people just very openly, like, hey, you probably didn't know, because they didn't. They weren't trying to be exclusive. And then the part of the disability, I think that is something that people miss a lot. They think of physical disabilities, you think of wheelchairs, but there are people with mental health issues, like Amy said, learning disabilities, sensory, hearing, vision, even smell. There are just so many different disabilities that we don't think of. And I think that's what's hard, because how can you not hear? You have ears. People just, again, they don't mean to be, but they just can't imagine that you can't hear. But.
Yeah. So you're not for profit, and you do all this great work in the world, which is necessary work, and it is education for many of us who are just ignorant, right, of this topic. It's ignorant. What do you want to call it? It's ignorance. I didn't know. Yeah. Right.
That's true.
And it's not willful ignorance, right? I don't know. I don't know why I have to keep. How much more should I? No.
Point taken. Thank you.
We got it. We know you need nothing by it.
People don't mean to be stupid. Thank you.
That's true.
They can't help
I didn't
it.
mean to be so dumb. So, especially when I look so smart with these glasses. Years ago, it's a dumb story, but years ago I thought, boy, the person looks smarter with glasses, and I should have glasses. And so I was talking with a business partner of mine at the time. We were like, you know what we should do? We should get glasses with just glass. Just clear glass in them so we could look smart in meetings. So you can take them off. Now that we're on the video cast, you can take them off and go, I don't know. Right? So
That was a high school thing a couple years ago. My oldest daughter, her sophomore year, wore glasses her sophomore year, and she did not need them. They were just...
Really?
Yes.
Were they empty? Like
Yeah.
nothing
Well,
in
she
there?
had actual
Glass.
lenses in,
Just
but they were...
glass.
And so now she sees those pictures, and she's like, oh my God.
Well, I'd like to see you get those clip kind that you can leave out right down here, then you.
Yeah.
Oh, I have seen those. Oh my God, that's just fascinating to me.
Okay, so let's go back to the not-for-profit thing. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to talk about how I wanted braces until I got braces, and I was like, my God,
You
what have I
wanted
done?
braces?
I thought it was gonna be cool.
What?
I don't
Like, you
know.
get, like, radio
Children
frequencies
do
or something?
weird things.
Yeah, I
thought
never
I
wanted
could really
braces.
Why?
use
'Cause
braces.
the colors on the you get to
I
change
don't
colors
know.
on them.
I thought it was
Who
cool.
wanted braces?
I
Yeah.
don't know. This is like the inner engineer in me was like, let's put contraptions in my mouth. So, not-for-profit, you're funded in part from donations. You're funded in part from grants. You're funded in part from state funds. And then you've got private you sell some things as well, right? That is a changing landscape for an important organization. How do you navigate that?
First of all, as a nonprofit, we are a business,
Mhm.
and it's just an IRS distinction. So we do everything that every other business does. You know, we hire people, we fire people, we pay. Well, I was going to say we pay our taxes. We pay their taxes. You know, we do payroll, we do finances, we have sales, So we've started to get into the entrepreneurial part of our business because, yes, we get state and federal funding. But part of what we do is we want our consumers, that's what we call our customers, our clients, to be independent. And to be fully independent, you're financially independent. And so that's what we would love to be. And so we started looking at entrepreneurial things. And we've been doing it for a long time. We just could never find that right fit because we want it to match our mission. We don't just want to be out there, selling socks because that's going to, make a couple bucks.
And there's lots of people doing that.
Sure.
Right? You're battling Goodwill, and you're battling
Sure.
Heartland, and you're battling.
And for them, it makes sense. And for us, we wanted something that matched our mission a little more closely. So that's where we're trying to go with that. And the other thing is when you are getting dollars from state or federal, and we are very appreciative of it, it's very constraining. And we are required to do exactly what they want us to do. And sometimes that just doesn't fit the mold.
Right.
What Springfield has decided doesn't maybe fit Rockford or Belvedere or, and so we want to be able to do what we do best without those constraints.
And I think sometimes too, people think if you get state or federal dollars, you're getting a handout.
Yeah.
And I think what people need to know is that, those grants are things that are saving the state and federal money, or saving them money in the long run. For example, we have a grant that helps people return back to their homes if they're living in a nursing home. It's called community reintegration.
Oh, cool.
And the cost of returning somebody back to their home so they can live independently is so much less expensive than having somebody live in an institution. So that program may cost the state money to give to RAMP through a grant, but in the end, we're saving the state money through providing those services. And that's typically all of our grants are that way. Our employment grants, we have a grant and we get milestone payments if we help somebody successfully get a job in the community. Well, if you get somebody a job in the community, they hopefully can get off their Social Security benefits. They can be a tax-paying citizen. They can be an active shopper in the community and help local businesses, raise, their revenues. And so the more that we can get people out and active and independent, we're saving money. And so those funds are not a handout, as a lot of people think. It's like, oh, geez, well, why should they get that state money? Well, because it's saving money in other areas.
Well, I guess we're talking like sustainable revenue, right? Because grant programs go up and down with the economy. I mean, I remember during the Great Recession, the big thing was you have all these nonprofits that help people in temporary poor situations. And all of a sudden, the demand for their services shot up at the time when their income was was plummeting because the governments couldn't give as much and people weren't donating as much. Now, from your standpoint, your need is fairly constant. It's not like if there's a recession, more people all of a sudden have disabilities, right? So you have pretty much a constant need. But the grant opportunities, that does go up and down with the economy, doesn't it?
With the economy and also with the legislators, you know, and I'm not trying to be flip, but sometimes there's what's the flavor of the month. You know, what are we supporting now? And so that can change with an administration. So it's not always, you know, money driven. Sometimes it doesn't. It's ideological, and it doesn't always fit what we're trying to do. We've had that in the past couple of years, where a grant they'll start to say, well, we're going to pull this back, or we're going to send it out to bid. So you might get it, you might not. And so you're kind of waiting to find out, and you're not replacing a position or something, and then the grant comes around, and you're like, oh, okay, and now you're flooded, and now you got to do this, you know, and we need you to go back and do for 6 months what you weren't doing while you were waiting for us to tell you what to do, and then there's other programs that are on the bubble, and they might cut those, and so it's this constant. It's constant stress, and it just becomes really difficult. And that's the other thing we'd love to get away from. If we were fully funded by ourselves and we could create our own sustainable income, we would love it. You know, Amy and her crew raise about a quarter of what we need in a year. We're a little over $2 million, and they raise $550 in a year. And if we had more of that, if we had more money that we were creating ourselves, we could be so much more effective, I feel. And the entrepreneurial things are exciting for us, and they also give us opportunities to provide for our consumers because we're trying to make them mission driven. You know, trying to put people to work and having them be a part of that. And it's this constant juggling. It's constant juggling.
So the entrepreneurial stuff you're talking about, what are some of the things that have worked, and what are some of the things that you thought would work but didn't work?
Selling candles doesn't work, and our staff hates it.
It's funny. When I first started, it's been about 11 and a half years ago, I first started for RAMP, and it was in 2007, and of course 2008 the recession hit, and we started. We didn't know if we were going to get our state payments. We've got to get everybody on board with fundraising. I'm like, yes, you know, finally I got everybody on my page with fundraising, and we did everything. We did candle sales, we did wine tastings, beer tastings, tequila tastings. We did any kind of tasting.
RAMP, we help people with disabilities, and we're kind of a bar.
We're kind of a bar.
Just slumped over outside. Tequila night.
We'll do whatever it takes to make $1.
Now, we've advanced since then in terms of, you know, it's not just a matter of doing fundraising events, but it's looking at different ways. And so we got a grant from the Blazer Foundation to work with Thinker Ventures and Jason and his team. And, you know, through that experience, we really came away with some ideas on ways to maximize what we're already good at. You know, what are our strengths and what are our assets, and what can we do to utilize that and build it in with our mission. And so some of the things that came out of it, as Julie mentioned a little bit earlier, is that our curriculum, you know, we're selling some of our disability-related curriculum in the schools, but not just in our area, but we're really trying to go outside of our 4 counties because we know it's worked here. We have very successful relationships with our schools here. They have provided great outcomes. They know it works. They're you know, telling us we love it. You know, we want more of it. So why limit that to just for our 4 counties? So we're selling that out across the country now. But we're also looking at, you know, what is one of our greatest assets? Well, I don't know if anybody is real familiar with where RAMP's located, but we're at 202 Market Street, which is on the corner of Water and Market, right downtown city of Rockford. And Julie was here way back when they took the risk of purchasing the building in 1996.
Yes.
And she could probably tell the story better of, you know, taking the risk of moving into a downtown area that people were not confident being in. You know, it was kind of like, what is this downtown area? Are we safe? Is it going to, you know, everybody was moving to the east side. Well, since then, you know, things have really turned around and things are booming downtown, and we sit right in the middle of it. And so we've got a beautiful building, and it's kind of like, well, now what do we do with this? You know, we're a nonprofit, but we have this beautiful building. What do we do? So, you know, we've been talking with a lot of people, and, you know, we've tried a few different things. We have a beautiful outdoor space, and so we've just put a little bit of money into renovating that and trying to utilize that space with private parties and different things that either with City Market or on a Saturday night, or we're looking at doing lunches we're calling it the patio at RAMP, looking at doing lunches on a weekly basis where people downtown area can walk down to RAMP and get their their pizza or their tacos or their whatever from a food truck in our parking lot and enjoy it on our patio and enjoy the outdoors. We're right across from the fountains and the river. It's really a nice place to be in the summer. So
It's a beautiful space.
and generate some revenue from Ramp. So those are some of the things we've
And that's direct
explored.
revenue, but also there's indirect revenue that might come from that because now there's just a greater awareness that you even exist.
And you can sell those candles,
Yeah.
right? The ones that they're still sitting there.
We'll let the candle sellers do that.
You
They're so much
wanna sell
better.
candles?
Apparently he wants to buy them.
I got an oldest daughter. She buys some.
But you're right, Jason, and that was one of the reasons you had kind of pointed that out to us, and I think we had kind of missed that for so long, that we had this great asset. Because, we all have our wheelhouse, and our wheelhouse is providing services and advocacy for people with disabilities, and so thinking more in terms of for-profit things is something we're learning and we're trying to get a handle on. And even doing sales for curriculum, we've hired for the first time a sales manager.
Yeah.
When I'm trying to tell them what to do, it's like, what do you think? So it's kind of interesting. It's exciting. It's trying to pull at that thread. Which way are we going? What's our niche market?
Yep.
Is it schools? Is it centers like ours? Is it after school programs? Is it so there's a lot of different things out there that we're trying to learn. But it's kind of a fun learning curve to kind of figure that out. But there's other ways too. We have like our employment program, which Amy was talking about before, is paid through Social Security Administration, one aspect of it. And we love it because if we get somebody a job, they pay us, and then their funding for that individual, their safety net starts to go down a little bit as they start to earn their own money, so they can feel comfortable. We're paid, and it's long term. It's about, we can be in partnership with them for about 3 or 4 years to make sure that person stays in their job, is sustainable, hopefully is promoted. I mean, you don't just get in a job and sit there. Most people want to move up.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It's great. So even though it is government funded, it's a win-win-win for us, for the consumer, and for the government who's helping to sustain this person. So that I view as also kind of entrepreneurial and looking at some of our funding in different aspects and realizing that that's a program that we could grow, and we have started to beyond our 4 counties too. We can be getting somebody a job in California because it's all online presence, and so again, that's kind of pushing us out of like, oh, okay, how do we do that? How do we market to them? How do they know that we're out there? How do they find us? So it's kind of exciting and fun and different. And
And it's a new world of opportunity. Now,
truly,
this interconnectedness and ability to get your message out beyond just this Rockford area or the 4 counties that you serve is unprecedented now, and it requires new tools and new skills. But the opportunity is amazing.
Yeah, it's limitless.
Yeah, and opportunities that will stay here local. The revenue that we're generating, will continue to serve those that we serve in our 4 counties. That won't change. So I mean, and it's, Julie says, it's our dream to just have those revenue sources, and that we won't need that. Is that reality? In the short term, probably not. But that's of course our goal and what we're working toward, and really trying to diversify. Yeah. In terms of having some different income streams, so that if one fails, another one is there, and so that's really what we're looking to do.
Awesome. Well, how do people get in contact with you if they want to engage with your organization?
Want to give us millions?
Well, if they want to give you millions, right?
Absolutely. Is that a different phone call?
Here's my cell number for that, or Amy's cell number.
You do tremendous work, right? And there are people who might want to give to that, and then there's people who might not understand how you could help them in their particular situation. Maybe they're struggling on their own. How do they get in contact with you?
Sure. Well, our main office phone number is 815-968-7467. Of course, we have a website. www.rampsil, which is CIL, cat. What's it stand for? Cat. What's the I?
Indigo.
Lima.org.
Are those the real words?
I think so.
So
Are those the military words?
It could be. I used to know them at one point in time.
A lot of people kind of get confused by the SIL part, but we are Center for Independent Living is what it
Is that
really
what that
stands
is?
for.
Okay, because that came up last night, Mosaic. So this guy was explaining Mosaic as, it's a SILA 4, and we're like, what?
So a SILA is actually residential.
Okay.
So a community integrated living arrangement.
Okay.
But we're Center for Independent Living, but independent living means all of us live independently.
Mhm.
And so that's what we're advocating for. And that's the idea. It came out of Berkeley, California, the first Center for Independent Living. Ed Roberts was the founder, fabulous guy, had polio as a child and could move basically his head a little bit and like a finger. And so lived in an iron lung about 23 hours a day. And finally,
Wow.
when he was able to use a machine that he could go outside, he started the first Center for Independent Living. He became the director of the rehab services for the state of California. The people who said he could never have a job, then he became their boss, which I think is the most
Yeah.
apropos thing in the world. But anyway, he first started the Center for Independent Living, and he's the one who said 51% of your staff are people with disabilities. This has to be a movement of people with disabilities.
I love that message because that's what you guys do. You work with people who somebody would say you'll never have a job, and you help them become the boss.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's a good slogan.
that
I like
is.
that.
Yeah,
We're gonna work on that. We'll work on it right after this
I like
podcast.
that. I like that.
All right, well, ladies, thanks for being on the What Works podcast.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you for having us.
If you have a compelling story, contact us at thinkerventures.com.